Welcome into Sports Talk at the stadium from Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia, where the Gamecocks tonight defeated Wofford 56-12 in their home finale. Our report is brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council. 2 goals for the Gamecocks coming into this one. Of course, win the game and come out of it in good shape from a health standpoint with Clemson coming up, and both of those goals were accomplished. The Gamecocks won handily, dominating in the second half. They were able to clear their bench and get a lot of different players into the game and get their starters out. They did not suffer any significant new injuries. Wide receiver Jacobs did suffer a hamstring injury late in the game, and we'll see how he is later in the week. Gamecocks held out several key players because of injuries to give them a chance to heal up and get ready for the Clemson game next week. More on them, of course, during the week. This game started off poorly for South Carolina. Wofford hit him with a 63-yard screen pass on the very first play, and that led to a field goal. Lenore Sellers then threw a pass interception on his second pass of the game, but Wofford could not turn that into points. The Gamecocks had a touchdown pass taken off the board because they had a man downfield. They had a pass interception by Nick Emanwari, wiped out because of a roughing the passer call. These kind of things were going against the Gamecocks, yet Wofford really wasn't able to take advantage. Wofford also faked a field goal on the Gamecocks, a little beamer ball on South Carolina, and they scored a touchdown on that play, but that was wiped out because of an offsides penalty on Wofford. So South Carolina made a bunch of mistakes early on, but this game was never really in doubt after the Gamecocks went on a long scoring drive, 90 yards, 17 plays, over 8 minutes, their longest scoring drive of the season in all 3 of those categories. They took the lead. Wofford did come back, score a touchdown. It was 14-9. Then the Gamecocks hit the Terriers with the scoring drive late, 2-minute drive, excellent 2-minute drive. They go up 21-9 at the half. They take the second half kickoff. They put together another long scoring drive. And so they are off from there. They scored on every possession of the second half, and they had a bunch of long drives. The Gamecocks had 21 big plays, 11 on the ground and 10 through the air. They had some very long drives, time-consuming drives, and obviously they outclassed Wofford from a talent standpoint, a physicality standpoint tonight. And the game, outside of that shaky start, the game was never really in doubt. The Gamecocks finished with a season-high 608 yards, 387 in the second half. Wofford with 247, but only 84 in the second half. The Gamecocks had 343 passing, 265 on the ground. They were 10 of 12 on third down. The Gamecocks averaged 7.8 yards per play and 5.8 yards per rush. Defensively, they had 4 more sacks and 8 tackles for loss. Sellers, after the interception, he was exceptional. He had a long streak of completed passes. He finished 23 of 27, 307 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Rocket Sanders, 15 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. One of the emerging stars of the game tonight, somebody who's been coming on, is receiver Delvon Campbell. He had 5 catches for 120 yards tonight. So another weapon emerging for South Carolina in their offense. So the Gamecocks, 8-3. They've won 5 in a row for the first time in 11 years. They'll be, of course, nationally ranked, might move up a little bit. And then Clemson had a similar type of game up in Death Valley today. They'll remain nationally ranked, so it sets up a huge one next Saturday at Death Valley between the Gamecocks and the Tigers, both of whom are still thinking about the playoffs. From a South Carolina standpoint, they'd have to beat Clemson, and they would have to have the favor of the committee to take a team at large with 3 losses. Probably unlikely, but if the Gamecocks were to beat Clemson, you'd have to look at their resume and say, my goodness, they're playing as well as anybody in the country right now. And, of course, Clemson, they could still get into the playoffs without a win over South Carolina, depending on what happens next week with Miami going up to Syracuse. If the Orange can beat Miami for the Tigers, Clemson's going to play for the ACC championship against SMU. they can get in the playoff that way, even with 3 losses, even with a loss to South Carolina next week. So that's something to be talked about after next week. Next week, there's going to be a lot of talk about South Carolina and Clemson, and well, there should be because these two teams are looking very good record-wise. They're both playing well. South Carolina's playing really well going in. Some of the today's game moments notwithstanding, and Clemson had a very solid, dominating win over the Citadel today. The Tigers have not played all that well in November. They've won games, but they haven't played all that well in the month of November. So we'll see. We'll see which one brings it next Saturday. Which one is on their game the best next Saturday? I can promise you there's going to be some highlights because both teams have some obviously exceptional players, 2 quarterbacks who can make things happen, excellent receivers, and very, very good defenses. So it should be a lot of fun in Death Valley come next Saturday. But for now, both of these teams want to enjoy their wins tonight over FCS opponents here from the Palmetto State. So there is more coverage on our website, of course, sportstalksc.com. Be sure to follow us on our new Twitter, which is at Sports Talk Posts, at Sports Talk Posts with an S. Tomorrow night, Sunday, coverage of both of the conference calls with Shane Beamer at 5 o'clock and Dabo Sweeney at 6 o'clock. Then on Monday, Matt Smith will join me and Chris Bergen, and we'll talk about our games. Smitty was at Clemson, this game here, and of course, Chris was with Coastal Carolina. Talk about all that and look ahead to the big one up in the Valley next Saturday. But for now, South Carolina enjoys a win at home to close out the regular season, an 8-3 mark going up to Clemson. They win it over Wofford 56-12. And our report, our coverage brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council. Thanks for checking us out tonight from right here at Williams-Brice Stadium.